Imagine waking up to find your morning coffee interrupted by the clip-clop of sensible heels on your dock, followed by the voice of Deborah Whitaker, the self-proclaimed guardian of Serenity Lakes Estates, declaring in her sweetest, most condescending tone, "Ethan, darling, this railing is an eyesore and a liability. Replace it with the approved aluminum model or face $100 a day starting tomorrow." She stood there, clipboard like a shield, pastel suit impeccable, pearls gleaming under the sun as if she were attending a garden party instead of destroying a family's legacy. I didn't yell. I didn't argue. I just looked at the cedar wood my dad had sanded with his own hands before cancer took him, the same wood where my daughter Lily had carved her initials last summer. "Funny, Debbie," I said softly, letting the lake breeze carry my words. "You keep quoting bylaws from a charter that doesn't exist anymore." Her Botox smile twitched, just a flicker, but I caught it. Oh, bless her heart. Deborah Whitaker, president of the HOA for 8 glorious years, the woman who once fined Mrs. Hargrove $250 for hanging wind chimes that offended the aesthetic integrity of the community. The same woman who smiled at block parties while quietly reminding everyone that her word was basically law. She recovered fast, of course. The board has been more than patient, Ethan. Uniformity isn't optional. It's what keeps property values from tanking. She tapped her pen like she was conducting an orchestra of suffering. I folded the violation notice she slapped into my hand and slid it into my jacket pocket. Chain of custody, every detail. Because I'd learned a long time ago that bullies like Debbie don't just want your compliance. They want your soul on a silver platter with HOA-approved garnish. My dad built this dock the summer I turned 10. Every nail, every coat of cedar oil. It wasn't just wood. It was the last place I could still hear his laugh when the wind hit it right. And Deborah Whitaker wanted it gone because it didn't match the shiny new aluminum trend she'd pushed through last year. By the next morning, the neighborhood was buzzing. Whispers at the mailbox cluster, side eyes at the dog park. "Did you hear about the Brooks dock?" Debbie's finally cracking down. They didn't know the half of it. I walked into the clubhouse that evening like I was strolling into a lion's den wearing a meat suit. The walls were plastered with glossy photos of the lake. Perfectly photoshopped, of course, no trace of the algae blooms that started after last year's mysterious maintenance. Deborah sat at the head table, flanked by her loyal lapdogs, Marcus the banker and Susan the spreadsheet queen. "Mr. Brooks," she purred without looking up, "the board has voted. Daily fines begin tomorrow. Any further resistance, and we'll have no choice but to initiate lien proceedings." Her tone was pure saccharine poison. I let the silence stretch just long enough for the other homeowners to feel the awkwardness. Then I smiled, the kind of smile that doesn't reach the eyes. "You all know this dock was permitted by the county before half these McMansions even existed. But let's talk about what really matters. Last summer you drained the entire community pond without a single permit. Fish died. Birds left. Property values dipped. Yet here you are lecturing me about compliance." Marcus cleared his throat. Susan's pen froze. Deborah's smile thinned to a razor's edge. "You've made your point. You may leave." I leaned in, voice low enough that only the front row could hear. "Not until you understand your precious charter lapsed 2 years ago. You have zero legal authority to fine anyone, let alone lien their home. You're running a ghost government, Debbie. And ghosts can't collect rent." The room went dead quiet. Even the AC seemed to hold its breath. Deborah recovered with the grace of a cornered cat. "We'll see about that." But that half-second crack in her voice? Pure gold. I walked out into the warm evening air feeling the first real spark of hope. Whispers followed me like smoke. Seeds of doubt planted. Deborah still held the gavel, but the handle was starting to splinter. At home, Lily sat on the porch steps, sketchbook open, drawing the dock exactly as it stood, cedar railing glowing in the sunset, my dad's old fishing hat perched on the post. "Are they really going to make you tear it down, Dad?" Her voice was small. I crouched beside her, breathing in the faint scent of cedar oil still clinging to my hands. "Not if I can help it, kiddo. This isn't just wood. It's a promise. And sometimes promises need a little defending." Deborah thought she'd picked an easy target. A single dad, a worn-out dock, a quiet guy who never caused trouble. She had no idea I'd spent the last decade learning exactly how people like her operate, how they weaponize community standards while breaking every real rule in the book. I folded the violation notice again, feeling the paper crinkle like dry bones. Game on, Debbie. Game on. The next morning, an orange notice flapped on my front door like a surrender flag someone forgot to burn. Final warning, lien proceedings pending. Thicker paper this time. Bold letters. Public humiliation served fresh. Neighbors power walked past with their golden retrievers, eyes darting away like I'd suddenly sprouted horns. Deborah wanted shame. She wanted me to fold. Instead, I drove straight to the county clerk's office, the folder of evidence growing heavier on the passenger seat. The clerk barely glanced up when I slid the notice across the counter. Need to verify incorporation status for Serenity Lakes HOA. Her fingers flew across the keyboard. Click, click. Then her brow furrowed. Last filing shows expired 2 years ago. No renewal. She printed the records with the official county seal, cold, hard proof. I thanked her, stepped back into the blazing sunlight, and allowed myself one small, satisfied exhale. Deborah Whitaker had built her entire kingdom on expired paperwork. How deliciously stupid. By the time I got home, the community Facebook page was on fire. Deborah had posted a cropped photo of my dock with the caption, "Non-compliant structure threatening neighborhood safety. Resident refuses cooperation. Board forced to act for the greater good." The comments were split, some Karens in training parroting, "Think of the children," while others quietly asked, "Wait, didn't that dock pass county inspection?" Doubt was spreading like cracks in cheap concrete. That night, I walked the full length of the dock alone. Water lapped against the pilings in the same rhythm my dad used to whistle while he worked. I ran my hand along the railing, feeling every groove he'd carved. This wasn't about winning anymore. This was about refusing to let a woman who'd never swung a hammer in her life erase the last piece of my father. 2 days later, I found groundskeeper Jerry in the maintenance shed near the tennis courts, pushing a broom like it owed him money. His shoulders were hunched, knuckles white. I leaned against the doorframe. "You were here when they drained the pond last year, weren't you?" Jerry froze mid-sweep. The broom scraped once, then stopped. "I don't know what you're talking about, Mr. Brooks." But his voice cracked like thin ice. I didn't push, just waited. Finally, he set the broom down and rubbed the back of his neck. "Look, I've got kids in school. Mortgage. If I cross her," he glanced toward the clubhouse like Deborah might materialize in a puff of entitlement. "She told us it was an environmental upgrade. No permits. Pumps ran all night. Fish floated belly up for days. She laughed about it in the office, said nobody would dare question her." I kept my voice gentle. "You don't have to say anything you're not ready for, Jerry. But when the time comes, the truth has a way of coming out anyway." He didn't answer, just stared at the floor. But the tremor in his hands told me everything. Guilt was eating him alive. The foreclosure letter arrived by courier the next day, hand-delivered, certified, the works. 10 days to comply or lose the house. I read it at the kitchen table while Lily watched with wide eyes. Deborah had gone nuclear. But she'd also gone stupid. Because now I had 2 smoking guns, the expired charter and Jerry's trembling confession. I slipped both into the folder and smiled for the first time in weeks. That evening, the neighborhood barbecue smelled like grilled burgers and desperation. Kids chased each other under the oaks while adults clutched plastic cups and pretended everything was normal. Deborah held court near the pavilion, lemonade in hand, smiling like a beauty queen who'd just won the swimsuit round. She spotted me instantly. "Ethan, enjoying yourself?" Her voice dripped fake honey. I waited until the crowd quieted, then pinned the foreclosure letter to the picnic table with my dad's old fishing knife. "This," I said loud enough for everyone to hear, "is what your board does when you don't bow. They threaten to take your home. Except they don't even have the legal right to send it." I held up the county records, seal catching the light. Charter expired 2 years ago. Every fine, every threat, illegal. You've all been paying protection money to a ghost. Gasps rippled. Deborah's face flushed the color of cheap wine. "Don't listen to him. He's twisting facts." But the crowd was already shifting. Phones came out. Whispers turned to murmurs. One woman near the back, Mrs. Hargrove with the wind chime fine, actually started clapping. Slowly at first, then louder. Deborah's perfect smile finally cracked wide open. The emergency meeting 2 nights later felt like a funeral that hadn't decided whose coffin to use yet. Folding chairs squeaked under nervous neighbors. Deborah marched in last, flanked by Marcus and Susan, clutching the podium like it was the last lifeboat on the Titanic. "We're here to address misinformation," she began, voice pitched high. "Certain individuals are undermining the standards that keep Serenity Lakes beautiful." Her eyes lasered straight at me. I stood slowly, folder in hand. "Standards? Like the ones that let you drain the community pond without permits and kill every fish in it?" I laid the county records on the nearest table. "Or the standard that says you can't operate an HOA when your charter died 2 years ago?" The room erupted. People who'd been fined for everything from bird feeders to holiday lights started waving their own violation notices like battle flags. Then Jerry stepped forward from the back, cap in hand, voice shaking but clear. "I was there when she ordered the pumps. No permits." She laughed and said nobody would ever challenge her because everyone's too scared. The silence that followed was so complete you could hear the lake lapping outside. Deborah slammed the podium. "Liar. Disgruntled employee." But nobody was buying it. Not anymore. The courtroom 2 days later smelled of old wood and fresh justice. Deborah sat at the defense table, perfect posture finally starting to wilt. The judge listened as I laid out every document, every timestamp, every lie. When Jerry took the stand, his voice didn't shake this time. She knew the charter was expired. She said it didn't matter because fear works better than law. Deborah's attorney tried every trick in the book. The judge shut him down with one sentence. "Facts don't care about your feelings, counselor." A week later, the ruling came down like a hammer made of pure satisfaction. HOA charter void. All fines nullified. Foreclosure threat dismissed. County opened an investigation into the illegal pond draining. Deborah was ordered to repay every illegal dollar collected. Neighbors gathered on the courthouse steps. Violation notices now just expensive confetti. Lily ran up with her sketchbook open. The dock, water restored, sunlight dancing on the cedar. "It's safe now, Dad." I knelt beside her. "Yeah, kiddo. It's safe." And so is every family she tried to bully. That evening, the whole neighborhood gathered at the lake shore. Jerry stood taller than I'd ever seen him, backslapped by people who used to cross the street when he walked by. The county had already started refilling the pond. Kids skipped stones. Someone brought a cooler. For the first time in years, the air didn't feel heavy with invisible rules. I stood on the dock as the sun dipped low, hand on the railing my dad built. Lily slipped her fingers into mine. "Grandpa would have loved this," she whispered. Behind us, laughter floated across the water. Real laughter, not the polite kind Deborah used to demand. Deborah's reign ended exactly where she thought she was strongest, in front of the crowd she'd spent years terrorizing. And the people she'd silenced? They delivered the final blow with nothing but the truth. So tell me in the comments, was Ethan the villain for exposing the truth, or was Deborah the real monster hiding behind community standards? Who was really in the wrong here and why?